Hey everyone, I'm the Anime Watcher, and today I've read every Demon Slayer manga and I will explain the entire story of Demon Slayer from where we left off in the Infinity Castle to the end of the story. So, spoiler alert, at the end of Demon Slayer Season 4, Muzan uses Nakime to suck every Hashira and Demon Slayer into Infinity Castle. Every Hashira uses their breathing form to land safely, but Nakime makes Tanjiro fall too fast. Luckily, Tanjiro gets caught by his favorite introverted big bro, Giyu Tomioka. The two are suddenly attacked by nearby demons, but quickly defeat them using water-breathing 6th form, Whirlpool, and 3rd form, Flowing Dance respectively. Tanjiro comments on Giyu's skill, internally noting how Giyu can predict his movements and form choices with ease, all while remaining calm. They then continue deeper into the castle. Obanai rescues Mitsuri from several demons with Serpent Breathing's 5th form, Slithering Serpent, much to her grateful joy. Gyome and Muichiro rush through the castle, killing demons and noting that all are about the strength of a lower moon, indicating Muzan's plan to wear them down. They mourn the loss of Kagaya Obuyashiki. Muichiro recalls a near-death experience where Kagaya encouraged him to keep going, offering comfort to all injured demon slayers in a fatherly manner. Muichiro, enraged, swears revenge on Muzan for killing his twin and second father, with the normally calm Gyome sharing his fury. Tsunemi, lamenting his failure to protect Kagaya, slaughters demons in his path. Inosuke, excited by the challenge, falls into the Infinity Castle, eager to test his skills. Zenitsu hears something and senses a particular person nearby, calling them unforgivable. Shinobu, smelling blood, opens a door to find numerous corpses and a demon standing amidst them. She recalls her late sister Kane's words, urging her to quit the Demon Slayer Corps and live a normal life. Shinobu, in distress, asks about the demon who killed her sister. The flashback ends with her remembering the demon's appearance, blood covering his head. Shinobu then witnesses the demon devouring victims surrounded by female corpses. The demon, with a smile, removes his crown and introduces himself as Doma. Shinobu recalls her sister's warning that Doma would laugh carelessly and speak softly. One of Doma's victims pleads for help, but Doma dismisses them, continuing his speech. Shinobu carries the victim away, asking if they are okay, but Doma inquires if she is a Hashira, impressed by her speed. Before the victim can answer, Doma kills them, stating he will eat the body later. Shinobu recalls her sister's words about Doma's weapons, sharp fans. Doma reveals he leads the Eternal Paradise faith and believes it's his duty to bring happiness to himself and his followers. Shinobu, disgusted, rebukes him, stating the girl he killed was in pain and begging for help. Doma argues he freed her from pain, suffering, and fear, and that he consumes his followers so they can live forever with him. Shinobu, furious, spits at him, asking if he's mentally stable and expressing her revulsion. Doma, surprised, comments on how harsh she's been for their first meeting. Doma notices Shinobu's pain and pities her, suggesting that she must have gone through something difficult. He offers to listen if she wants to talk about it. But Shinobu, filled with rage, grabs her Haori and snaps at him, demanding if he doesn't remember the Haori. "This was my sister's," she growls. Doma pauses, recalling Kane as the flower-breathing woman. He regrets not being able to eat her before sunrise. Before he can finish his words, Shinobu strikes him in the eye with her insect-breathing Dance of the Bee Sting. True flutter. Doma's impressed by how fast she was, admitting he couldn't even react in time to stop her. He quickly counters, unleashing his demon art, Frozen Lotus. Shinobu flips backward to dodge it, but she accidentally inhales the ice powder he scattered. Doma gives a mocking compliment, saying she's fast, but quickly adds that stabbing won't kill a demon. "You should aim for the neck," he says, confident. Shinobu smirks and replies, "If a stab doesn't kill you, poison will." As the wisteria poison kicks in, Doma drops to the floor, coughing up blood. He grins, saying that this poison is stronger than the one she used before on the mountain. "Muzan warned me that you change your poison for each demon you face," he muses. Doma then laughs, saying how much fun it was to get poisoned and apologizes for breaking down the poison so quickly. "That was impressive," he says. "Your katana makes a distinct sound when you sheath it. I wonder if that's how you change the concentration of the poison." He clasps his hands together and grins. "This could become a habit. Are you planning to try a new formula next time?" Shinobu, determined, notes that it was expected he'd be able to break down the poison, considering his abilities. Doma shifts the conversation to his past, recalling his childhood. Born with rainbow-colored eyes and white hair, he was seen as special, like he was connected to God. His parents, who were too foolish to understand, made him the head of a cult called the Eternal Paradise Cult. People came from everywhere, hoping for advice and guidance. But 𝐷𝐿𝐼 didn't care. He found it strange that adults were seeking wisdom from a child when they begged him to show them the way to paradise. 𝐷𝐿𝐼 cried, bitterly believing that paradise, gods, and Buddhas were all fairy tales. He couldn't understand why people wouldn't accept that they were just destined to die. But if I can make them happy, 𝐷𝐿𝐼 thought, maybe that's my purpose. Shinobu, still fighting, notices a 5th slash on her hand from 𝐷𝐿𝐼 and realizes he's healing himself from the poison. He taunts her, asking if she's okay now that she's breathing heavily. Shinobu, struggling to stay focused, realizes just how strong 𝐷𝐿𝐼 is. His resistance to her poison is insane, and she now understands how powerful the upper ranks truly are. 𝐷𝐿𝐼 points out that her lungs must be shredded from his blood demon technique. Shinobu knows that the fog from his frozen lotus is poisonous if inhaled, but she doesn't give up. She decides to land multiple strikes, hoping to poison him again. With a fierce resolve, she uses Dance of the Dragonfly, Compound Eye Hexagon, stabbing 𝐷𝐿𝐼 repeatedly. As she backs away, bleeding from her own wounds, 𝐷𝐿𝐼 taunts her again. He comments that she's the fastest Hashira, yet she could have easily decapitated him with her speed, but she's held back by her small frame. Shinobu, bleeding heavily, looks down at her hands, remembering how small they've always been. If I were bigger, I could have killed demons the normal way, she thinks. She recalls how her sister 𝐾𝐈 was able to do so despite being just a bit taller and slimmer than Shinobu. In her mind, she hears 𝐾𝐈's last words, telling her that she would likely lose to 𝐷𝐿𝐼. Just as the pain seems too much to bear, 𝐾𝐈's spirit appears before her. "Stand up," 𝐾𝐈 urges, but Shinobu, heavily wounded and unable to breathe properly with her left lung damaged, knows she's reaching her limit. "I can't anymore," she thinks, her vision blurring as she bleeds out. 𝐾𝐈 urges Shinobu to fight on, reminding her of her promise to her and 𝐾𝐈. No matter the cost, she has to kill 𝐷𝐿𝐼. Shinobu, remembering their younger sister, crouches down, determined. 𝐷𝐿𝐼, taunting her, comments on the half-hearted slash she gave him, but notes it must still hurt. As 𝐷𝐿𝐼 approaches, Shinobu stands, shocking him. Blood pours from her mouth, but she continues, determined to finish the fight. 𝐷𝐿𝐼 laughs, saying the blood in her lungs is causing her pain and suggests giving up. Shinobu, however, refuses, and with the resolve to win, she strikes with her insect-breathing technique, the Dance of the Centipede, her speed overwhelming him. The impact from her strike shatters the bridge beneath them. 𝐷𝐿𝐼 attempts to counter, but is too slow, only managing a glancing blow. Shinobu leaps into the air, drives her sword through his neck, and slams him into the ceiling in one final effort. As the battle rages, Shinobu reflects on her past. Her belief in happiness was shattered when a demon killed her parents, leaving her and 𝐾𝐈 orphaned. They were saved by 𝐿𝐼, and from then on, they vowed to become demon slayers to prevent others from suffering the same fate. Despite their weak strength, they believed they could save countless lives by stopping demons, even if it meant risking their own. Shinobu recalls a moment when Tanjiro asked if she was angry. She admits she has been angry for a long time, angry at the demons who took her parents, her sister, and countless others. She's especially furious that her poisons haven't been effective on 𝐷𝐿𝐼. But as her sword slips from 𝐷𝐿𝐼's neck, he catches her with his ice, pulling her into a hug. He mocks her for being weak and less talented than 𝐾𝐈, but he admires her determination. 𝐷𝐿𝐼 then decides that, despite everything, she's worthy of being eaten. Before he devours her, he asks for her final words. Shinobu, with all the strength she has left, responds, "Go to hell." Kanua, arriving at the scene, watches in horror as 𝐷𝐿𝐼 crushes Shinobu's body in his arms, killing her. Her sword slips from her hand as she screams in agony. Desperate, Kanua leaps into action, trying to strike with her Crimson Hanagoromo technique, but 𝐷𝐿𝐼 escapes and lands on the floor, mocking her for attacking during a moment of absorption. Kanua, seething with rage, can't hold back her fury. 𝐷𝐿𝐼, fondly recalling his brief time with Shinobu, licks her hairpin and casually taunts Kanua. He's already thinking about his next meal, relishing the idea of having two gorgeous meals at once. Meanwhile, Zenitsu approaches a room, calling for someone inside. Kaigaku, now a demon, steps out and taunts Zenitsu for being as weak as ever. Zenitsu snaps back, saying that, as a demon, Kaigaku is no longer his senior. Elsewhere in the castle, Tanjiro and Giyu are navigating the maze-like structure. Tanjiro nearly falls through a hole in the floor, wondering how long Tamio can withstand Muzan's power. A Kosugai crow arrives with tragic news. Shinobu has been killed by the upper rank 2. Tanjiro fights back tears, while Giyu notices a piece of paper order attached to the crow's neck. Back at the Demon Slayer headquarters, a new leader, 𝐵𝐫𝐸 AnimeWatcherToo, has taken the reins as the head of the organization, despite being only 8 years old and the last remaining male. He is supported by his sisters Kuwanai and Kanata. Despite the deaths of their parents and 2 elder sisters, he has not grieved in order to stay focused on their mission. Kuwanai and Kanata also hold back their emotions to aid him. Their father, who had a short lifespan, was strict and raised them to adulthood as quickly as he could. Their elder sisters, Hinaka and Nichika, had never left their parents' side. Their mother was also kind, but strict in raising them. Each of the 3 siblings carries one of Yoshiro's talismans, which helps them map out the Infinity Castle. Karaya notices they lack crucial information and suggests telling the crows to spread out and gather as many eyes as possible. Kuwanai decides that Muzan has not left his location and instructs Karaya to guide them north to confront him. She mentions that the only demons currently facing the Upper Moon demons are Kanao and Zenitsu, the latter now facing the new Upper Rank 6. Zenitsu and Kaigaku face off, with Kaigaku mocking Zenitsu as puny and weak, scoffing at his status as a Hashira since he only knows one form. Zenitsu retaliates, commenting on how happy Kaigaku seems in the bottom rank, leaving Kaigaku stunned by the insult. Zenitsu questions how Kaigaku could have turned into a demon, but when Kaigaku tries to answer, Zenitsu cuts him off, asking why someone who mastered thunder breathing would ever become a demon. Zenitsu angrily yells that Jigoro committed to seppuku by himself, and he gets even angrier when he hears what Kaigaku did. He tells Kaigaku that someone was meant to help him during that act, but instead, he died an agonizing death alone, all because a user of thunder breathing became a demon. Kaigaku scoffs and asks if Zenitsu is supposed to feel sad or repent, unapologetically stating that he doesn't care. He declares that he will always stick to those who value him and is glad Jigoro died painfully, angry that all his efforts to please Jigoro never resulted in being named his successor. He further insults Zenitsu by calling Jigoro senile and mocks the idea of sharing his successorship with dirt. Zenitsu furiously retorts that if Kaigaku is dirt, then he is garbage. Kaigaku, only able to use the first form of thunder breathing, never managed to learn any other, and Jigoro died a miserable death because he didn't have a true successor. Kaigaku, angered, tells Zenitsu not to lump him in with someone like him and unleashes Thunder Breathing's 4th form, Distant Thunder, sending lightning at Zenitsu. However, Zenitsu has already avoided the attack and slashes at Kaigaku's neck, mocking him, saying he's too slow and calling him filth. Kaigaku, stunned, wonders why his opponent seems like a completely different person. Kaigaku then recalls his unfortunate encounter with Upper Rank 1, Kokushibo. He reflects that it isn't shameful to kneel before an overwhelmingly powerful foe. He remembers surrendering quickly to Kokushibo, believing that as long as he is alive, he can always do something, even if he has to scrape his head on the ground, drink dirty water, or steal to survive. In a flashback, Kokushibo offers him a portion of Muzan's blood, promising that if he accepts, he can join the upper ranks. Kokushibo warns that it takes time to become a powerful demon as powerful as a swordsman and gives Kaigaku a large amount of blood since he is a breath user. He tells Kaigaku to be grateful for the blood, but threatens to behead him if he spills a drop. At that time, Kaigaku's whole body was terrified before his transformation, but now, facing Zenitsu, Kaigaku's fear is gone. He assures Zenitsu that no matter how powerful he is, Zenitsu cannot beat an upper rank, declaring that everyone must die eventually, and that both Jigoro and Zenitsu are no exceptions. Kaigaku uses Thunder Breathing's 2nd form, Rice Spirit, to strike Zenitsu. Zenitsu notices Kaigaku's 5 simultaneous attacks, deducing that he must have consumed numerous people already. He asks the demon if he understands right from wrong. Kaigaku responds that those who accept him are right and those who don't are wrong. He then uses Thunder Breathing's 3rd form, Thunder Swarm, followed by the 5th form, Heat Lightning, hitting Zenitsu and burning him. As he mocks his former comrade for his newfound demon-enhanced forms, Kaigaku follows up with Thunder Breathing's 6th form, Rumble and Flash, landing several slashes on Zenitsu. As Zenitsu falls after the attack, memories from his training days with Kaigaku flood his mind. Ironically, Zenitsu only managed to master the 1st form, while Kaigaku could do all but the 1st form of Thunder Breathing techniques. Deep down, Zenitsu knew Kaigaku was never going to be a Hashira. One day, Zenitsu had struck a senior demon slayer, and Kaigaku reprimanded him, mocking him for doing so. Zenitsu was aware Kaigaku hated him violently and he hated Kaigaku in return. Despite this, Zenitsu genuinely respected Kaigaku's work ethic and drive. Despite his special status as Jigoro's student, Kaigaku was never satisfied. Zenitsu considered Kaigaku's feelings like a box of happiness in his heart. Zenitsu's own happiness always leaked through, but he had to keep that box closed to feel satisfied. Apologizing to Jigoro and Kaigaku, Zenitsu lands on the wall and halts his fall. Kaigaku, confused, watches as Zenitsu uses Thunder Breathing's 7th form, Honokazuchi no Kami, speeding upward and decapitating Kaigaku. As the upper-ranked demon becomes enraged, he curses his former master for teaching Zenitsu a form he never knew, accusing Jigoro of playing favorites. Zenitsu replies, stating that Jigoro was never such a person and that he actually created this form for the day Zenitsu would fight alongside him. After Zenitsu decapitates Kaigaku, they both fall within the Infinity Castle to their deaths. Zenitsu plummets unconscious as Kaigaku disintegrates in rage. He comforts himself with the thought that Zenitsu will die alongside him when they reach the ground, but Yoshiro arrives just in time to save Zenitsu. Yoshiro coldly reminds Kaigaku that without friends, he will end up with nothing, as he gave nothing to anyone, commenting that dying alone is pathetic. As Zenitsu wakes up in a land filled with red spider lilies, he sees Jigoro across a river, separated from him. Zenitsu breaks down, crying in remorse and regret for not saving Kaigaku and for not becoming a Hashira before his death. As Zenitsu struggles with being caught by the lilies, he realizes Jigoro has remained silent. Finally, Jigoro speaks, calling Zenitsu's name and tearfully declaring that Zenitsu is his pride and joy. In reality, Zenitsu is being patched up by Yoshiro while being guarded by Murata and another demon slayer. Murata recognizes Zenitsu and calls out, hoping for his survival, but Yoshiro tells him to be quiet. Murata angrily protests that he can't be treated this way as a demon slayer of rank. Yoshiro, ignoring them, continues to patch Zenitsu's eyes, but Murata points out that Zenitsu's blood is still bleeding. Yoshiro tells Zenitsu that he was lucky Kaigaku was inexperienced with his demon powers, or else he would have died for sure if they fought a year later. Murata yells not to be so negative, attracting nearby demons. Yoshiro was brought along by Tamayo to assist the Demon Slayers, much to his frustration. Despite wearing the Demon Slayer uniform, no one recognizes him. The others sense something is off, but the fact that he's a demon created by Tamayo goes unnoticed. Yoshiro grows frustrated with Murata's failure to behead the attacking demon and places Zenitsu in a safe spot to assist. Meanwhile, Tanjiro and Giyu are running through the castle. Tanjiro tells Shinobu that they will win and that he is sure of it. Suddenly, a powerful tremor strikes, shaking the area and worrying the two water breathers. As Tanjiro wonders if it's a fight or someone's death, the tremor grows closer and stronger. Giyu tells Tanjiro to stay back as the source of the tremor punches through the ceiling, revealing the culprit to be Akaza. Akaza greets the Demon Slayers, saying, "Long time no see," and taunts Tanjiro, expressing surprise that a weakling like him is still alive. Tanjiro, angered, yells Akaza's name in response. Elsewhere, Tamayo is trapped in a flesh cocoon created by Muzan, slowly being absorbed. She desperately pleads for help while working on mapping out the Infinity Castle. Kunai, overcome with emotion, envisions the recently deceased members of her family. Her eyes well up with tears, but her brother Karaya reassures her to stay strong so they can win. After a brief pause, Kunai recomposes herself and continues her task. Meanwhile, former Hashira Tengen and Shinjuro stand guard outside, reflecting on Karaya's growth despite losing his father at a young age. Shinjuro notes that the youth are risking their lives and mentions how he's following his late son Kyojuro's example, putting his own life on the line to protect them. Elsewhere, Sakanji is tending to Nezuko. He mentions giving her a medication that could return her to human form, but wonders if it's having any effect. If Nezuko were to become human, Muzan's efforts to conquer the sun would be ruined, and she would be the only demon in history who could survive sunlight. Sakanji trembles at the thought of witnessing the conflict end that night. He recalls the day he first met Tanjiro and feels like the end is finally near, silently rooting for Tanjiro and Nezuko to win. Inside the castle, Tanjiro begins his fight with Akaza, who lunges forward with a forceful attack. Tanjiro narrowly avoids it, using Hinokami Kagura's fire wheel to whip around Akaza. He attempts to slice off Akaza's arm, managing to do so, but Akaza regenerates quickly and counterattacks. Tanjiro, using Hinokami Kagura's fake rainbow, slashes Akaza across the face, Ɡyû, witnessing the fight, is impressed by Tanjiro's abilities, thinking that Tanjiro's skill now rivals that of a Hashira. He recalls the day they first met, when Tanjiro was begging for his sister's life and was weak compared to how he fights now with confidence and strength. 𝐿𝐵𝐫𝐸 remembers Kyojuro's final words, "This boy isn't weak," and acknowledges Tanjiro's growth, showing newfound respect for him. 𝐿𝐵𝐫𝐸 begins using his techniques more seriously. Ɡyû responds with water breathing's third form, flowing dance, evading 𝐿𝐵𝐸's attack. 𝐿𝐵𝐸 recognizes him as the water Hashira and comments that it has been 50 years since he last faced a Hashira who uses water breathing. In return, 𝐿𝐵𝐸 uses destructive death disorder, disrupting Ɡyû's movements. Ɡyû counters with water breathing's 11th form, dead calm, to negate the attack. The Upper Moon Demon then remarks that the last water Hashira he faced didn't use such a form. Tanjiro suddenly appears, using Hinokami Kagura's Raging Sun to slash at 𝐿𝐵𝐸's neck, but the demon dodges, appearing behind him and preparing to punch through Tanjiro's neck. Tanjiro barely avoids the blow, using Hinokami Kagura's fake rainbow to dodge, but Ɡyû intervenes, slicing off 𝐿𝐵𝐸's arm with water-breathing second form, Water Wheel. 𝐿𝐵𝐸's arm regenerates almost instantly, but Ɡyû attacks again, followed by Tanjiro using Hinokami Kagura's Flame Dance. 𝐿𝐵𝐸 sees Tanjiro trying to slice his foot and counters with his own technique, Crouch Splitter, knocking both Demon Slayers. Tanjiro tries to parry with his blade, but 𝐿𝐵𝐸's leg grazes his nose, causing him to bleed heavily from the force of the blow. Tanjiro crouches, clutching his nose, and Ɡyû faces 𝐿𝐵𝐸 alone. 𝐿𝐵𝐸 compliments Ɡyû's sword and asks his name, but Ɡyû refuses to answer, telling 𝐿𝐵𝐸 that he doesn't have a name to share and that he hates talking, urging the demon to stop bothering him. 𝐿𝐵𝐸 happily responds, continuing to ask Ɡyû for his name until he gives in. He uses his leg-type Explosive Flurry to strike Ɡyû's blade handle, knocking the Hashira through several walls. Tanjiro sees the impact and calls out to Ɡyû, only for 𝐿𝐵𝐸 to appear beside him, now excited that he knows his opponent's name. The two swing at each other, with Tanjiro using Hinokami Kagura's Burning Bone, Summer Sun. 𝐿𝐵𝐸 counters with Destructive Death, 8-layer Demon Core. 𝐿𝐵𝐸 survives the clash unscathed, while Tanjiro is forced back, slamming into a wall. 𝐿𝐵𝐸 praises Tanjiro for his swift growth, acknowledging the effort he's put into his training. He reminisces about the day of his battle with Kyojuro Rengoku, noting how Tanjiro was weak then, but now shows remarkable growth. 𝐿𝐵𝐸 expresses his gratitude for Kyojuro's death, claiming he would never have grown stronger otherwise. He also mocks Kyojuro's belief in staying human. Tanjiro hears 𝐿𝐵𝐸's words and, recalling Kyojuro, Shinjuro, and Senjuro, becomes enraged. He demands that 𝐿𝐵𝐸 stop insulting the former Flame Hashira. 𝐿𝐵𝐸, confused, claims he was praising Kyojuro and doesn't understand Tanjiro's anger. Tanjiro retorts that 𝐿𝐵𝐸 is insulting Kyojuro's legacy and shows hatred for anyone who faces him. 𝐿𝐵𝐸 clarifies that he only hates the weak, stating that nature's law dictates the weak must be eliminated. Tanjiro, however, counters, saying that 𝐿𝐵𝐸 is the product of his misguided views. He admits to being weak once too, but insists that the strong should protect the weak and the weak should grow stronger and help others. He declares that this is the true law of nature, calling 𝐿𝐵𝐸's beliefs unforgivable. As they face off, 𝐿𝐵𝐸 is troubled by Tanjiro's words. He senses something in Tanjiro's eyes, voice, and words that bothers him, even though he recognizes Tanjiro's strength. Suddenly, someone grabs 𝐿𝐵𝐸 by the shoulder and agrees with Tanjiro. The person tells 𝐿𝐵𝐸 that everyone starts off weak and grows with help from others, and that he should compare his progress only to himself, not others. The key is to become stronger than you were yesterday, so you can help others in turn. Angered, 𝐿𝐵𝐸 swings behind him to strike the speaker, but hits nothing. Bewildered, Tanjiro watches as 𝐿𝐵𝐸 mutters, "Tanjiro, you're extremely unpleasant." 𝐿𝐵𝐸 then uses Destructive Death, Crushing Type, 10,000 Leaves, Flashing Willow, causing the ground around him to rush toward Tanjiro. The Demon Slayer barely dodges, stunned by 𝐿𝐵𝐸's newfound speed. 𝐿𝐵𝐸 follows up with another attack, Destructive Death, Leg-type Flying Planet, 1,000 Wheels, which hits Tanjiro squarely. Tanjiro vomits from the impact and struggles to comprehend how 𝐿𝐵𝐸 is able to target Hue's vital areas with such precision. Tanjiro recalls when 𝐿𝐵𝐸 used his Deployment Compass Needle technique, but before he can figure it out, he dodges another incoming kick. He then uses Hinokami Kagura's Solar Heat Haze, managing to cut halfway through 𝐿𝐵𝐸's neck. However, 𝐒𝐫𝐫 heals instantly and is curious about the technique, asking how Tanjiro's strike managed to leave a hazy trail before hitting him. Meanwhile, Senjuro prays for his late brother Kyojiro's spirit to protect Tanjiro during the battle. He reflects on the conversation between Kyojiro and the sun-breathing swordsman from their past, remembering that the swordsman was the first to wield sun-breathing and had once fought Muzan. As Senjuro prays, it's revealed that a Kosuki crow carrying his letter is watching the battle, urging Tanjiro to survive so he can read it. Tanjiro attempts to use his Hinokami Kagura's fire wheel, but 𝐒𝐫𝐫 grabs his blade. Startled that Tanjiro will attempt to break it, Tanjiro headbutts the demon, though it has no effect. He tries to kick 𝐒𝐫𝐫, but the demon continues to hold onto his sword with immense strength. Suddenly, 𝐒𝐫𝐫's hands are sliced off, freeing Tanjiro and his sword. Ɡyū returns, stating that he's angered by the searing pain in his back and sarcastically thanks the Upper Moon for blasting him through several walls. Ɡyū and 𝐒𝐫𝐫 face off, with Ɡyū commenting that he doesn't want to battle to his fullest, but now he's facing someone who overwhelmed him from the start. Ɡyū acknowledges that 𝐒𝐫𝐫's senses are finely tuned, and he's switched on, understanding the true value of a battle. Tanjiro watches as Ɡyū unlocks his Demon Slayer mark. Ɡyū rushes towards 𝐒𝐫𝐫 and swings, narrowly missing his neck. 𝐒𝐫𝐫 tries to punch his head off, but Ɡyū ducks and swings again, with 𝐒𝐫𝐫 bending back to avoid the strike. 𝐒𝐫𝐫 realizes that Ɡyū's speed has increased since the mark appeared. Ɡyū uses water breathing, fourth form, Striking Tide, slicing through 𝐒𝐫𝐫's forearm. 𝐒𝐫𝐫 retaliates, striking the side of Ɡyū's head. Tanjiro observes the battle, noting how despite both being almost as fast as each other, 𝐒𝐫𝐫 immediately matches Ɡyū's newfound power. Tanjiro understands that in a battle of stamina, humans will lose, but the ultimate goal is to defeat Muzan. He tries to figure out how 𝐒𝐫𝐫's attacks are so precise and why he can predict attacks he hasn't seen. Tanjiro recalls a conversation with Inosuke, who described battle spirit as a stinging sensation in the body, signaling the enemy's intent to kill. Inosuke showed him how he could predict attacks by feeling the sting of murderous intent, but Tanjiro notes that a demon without the intent to kill would be harder to fight. Tanjiro, thinking back to that lesson, believes 𝐒𝐫𝐫 senses something in his opponents, giving him the edge. He tries to figure out how to interfere with 𝐒𝐫𝐫's destructive Death Compass Needle technique. When 𝐒𝐫𝐫 is exposed from Ɡyū's attack, Tanjiro attempts to use his Hinokami Kagura, flame dance on 𝐒𝐫𝐫's neck, but 𝐒𝐫𝐫 catches the blade without looking. Shocked, Tanjiro watches helplessly as 𝐒𝐫𝐫 mocks him and uses his other hand to strike Tanjiro's stomach, cutting him slightly. Tanjiro suddenly understands the situation. He remembers how his father always appeared calm, never showing emotional outbursts. His father's soft smile and calming voice come to mind. Tanjiro recalls asking his father about the Hinokami Kagura dance, wondering if he would be the one to perform it next year because of his frailty. His father had reassured him, saying that though he had felt exhausted in his youth, now he didn't tire from it anymore. Tanjiro realizes that the dance has useless moves, and his father's way of performing it was about more than just physical stamina. There was a deeper, underlying strength. Tanjiro thinks back to the lessons his father taught him, understanding now that he must not just fight physically, but also tap into the spiritual energy behind his movements. He realizes that the moves he thought were redundant may have hidden strength. In that moment, he knows he can no longer rely solely on his brute strength, but must find a deeper understanding of his own spirit and energy in the battle. As 𝐒𝐫𝐫 closes in, Tanjiro prepares for his next move with this newfound clarity. What mattered was using the correct breathing, movements, and releasing all your strength through minimal movement. Tanjiro explains that by doing so, your mind becomes invisible. But to achieve this, one must find their movements, sense their body, and gain full awareness.